The next influence principle by Cialdini is the consistency principle in being set in your ways. Clearly, as I got older, I became more set in my ways. Ask my wife, she will tell you. Of course, she did too. So Stephanie Brown says that there's evidence of a positive relationship between age and preference for consistencies. I can confirm that anecdotally with my own experience. And of course, you can see this in your parents and grandparents as well. So the solution, of course, if you want to break them from I need to be consistent or do things the old-fashioned way, is to say, well, you're doing the right thing. So don't say you're doing the wrong thing, because then they'll dig their heels in. You're doing the right thing. However, that was based on the information at the time. Times have changed. And as times have changed, keep the principle of the event the same, but change it over time to make it more modern. For example, banking. I know for years people in my family would not have an ATM card. They would go in and they needed to see a banker, and they needed to see the amounts written down, and they need to see their statements and so on. And so you just simply say, well, you're absolutely right. You should see a banker. You should be involved in that. However, we now have ATM cards, and computers are all they're looking at. So what we need to do is take the information that's on the computer, and we want to be consistent about getting true information. So we want to see the information in the computer ourselves. That tends to stop them from walking into the bank, because they're like, oh, yes, you're right. I don't want somebody else reading my information. And so that is consistent with their beliefs. And so they look for the information themselves, which lends them to do online banking and ATM cards. So you want to find ways to stress consistent values connecting their old actions with their new actions, so that you can get them off of their old set ways. A couple of other things in commitment and consistency is people don't like to back out of deals. They're more likely to do something after they've agreed verbally in writing. And in fact, I told somebody who was managing a golf course that they had trouble with people who would back out of tee times. You know, to reserve a tee time at a golf course, you call them up and say, I'd like a tee time. They say, great, I'll see you at 7:30 tomorrow. And of course, they don't show up, which means you're holding this time so nobody else shows up either, and you lose revenue. And so I suggested to them, under the commitment and consistency principle, to simply spin that a little bit. And when you take a tee time reservation, simply ask them for a verbal commitment that they will call if they need to change the reservation or to cancel it. So when they hang up, they say, okay, I have your tea time tomorrow morning at 7:30. You will call before the end of the day today if you need to change or cancel this, won't you? And if they say yes, then more than likely you'll have a higher percentage of people that call and cancel ahead of time, as opposed to just not showing up. So getting a verbal, or especially in writing, even better, commitment from whoever you're doing business with can impact them in a positive way for you. Of course, this works in reverse. If they're asking you for a commitment, you're going to tend to hold to that commitment, so you should be very cautious in the team, or in the way you look at commitments and how you agree. Asking your team members if they'll support your initiative will tell you a lot about whether they really back you or not. And just remember, the older we get, the more we value the consistency. We've made up our minds and we're more set in our ways. It's harder to get people to change their ways. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, you can. It's just harder.